All right, guys, so now that we've done that part, we've got our flight controller tinned. We're now on to the next section, which is going to be to basically prep it with the devices that we're going to be using. So we're going to pre-wire our flight controller before we put it into the frame, okay? Now, there's a couple things that I'm going to be adding here. I decided at the last minute to change a few things. I'm going to be adding a finder locator buzzer right here, and I'm going to be adding a receiver, all right? For the receiver, I just went with a very standard XM, FreeSky XM, and then for the buzzer, it's one of our JHE MCU finder buzzers, okay? So if you'll give me a second here, we're going to go ahead and knock that out, and then we're going to also bring out the wiring, here you go, for the camera, which is right here, that we talked about earlier, and we're going to bring out the wiring for the VTX, which is right here, all right, and we're going to basically pre-wire the whole thing. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I'll need some wiring for this, so I'll pull the wiring, and for this JHE20B finder, we're going to go ahead and do that too. So let's get started by looking at the board and seeing where we're going to put these. Right here on this side, you're going to see those pads that say ground, 4.5, and S-bus, and that's where we're going to put our receiver. So this receiver here does not come with any wire on it. It doesn't come with any wiring, right? It just comes with the receiver itself. And so, but whatever receiver you're using, this will be pretty much the way you do it, unless you're using a TBS, for example. There's a little different installation method, but if you need those instructions, let me know. Since we're not putting that with this setup here, I'm not going to worry about it. What I'm going to do with my XM here is I'm going to look at the wiring diagram. And the way this wiring diagram sits is like this. So you have S-bus, 5 volt, and ground. So it goes in this order. So we're going to go ahead and tin that first. Okay. And we're going to put our wires. Actually, what I'll do is I will go ahead and wire this up. I'm going to do something a little different, I think, just to make it easier for the system. But let me just show you how I want to do this. So I will take... let me see, I'm going to take some wiring that I already have, so let me get some pre-existing wiring here and get going with this one. So all right, so while I'm waiting for that one, let's do the camera. So we talked about the camera. Let me put the receiver right here. We talked about the camera, and I said you would keep the 3-prong and you would cut away the 4-prong. Now, even though this has 4, there's one wire that's not inside here, so don't worry about it. Just make sure to cut the 4 out. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's cut that. There we go. Let's remove that. You can throw that piece in the garbage. And now what we want to do is we want to strip the wiring here. So let me get this kind of out of the way, and we'll get to these when it's their turn. Okay. So let's start with this, the red wire. Just go ahead and strip about 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters of it right there. Then do the yellow the same, and then do the black the same. All right, there we go. Throw the garbage of those out. Now, take your flux pen and cover each of those wires, okay? And then hold the wire and twist it, just like that. You wanna basically hold the strands, the silver part, and then twist the silicone sheathing, and that'll tighten up the strands real nicely so that they don't separate, just like this. Okay, just like that. Once you have that done, if you have a helping hands like this one, you can just go ahead and put these. Mine's been abused this weekend because we had a lot of work to do. So let me see if I can straighten this back out a little bit, not make it look so rough. Okay, you can go ahead and put the wires in the helping hands, and then spread them out so that you can tin them up. Okay, so take your soldering iron, make sure the tip is clean, and then get yourself some solder and just tin the wires up. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. All right, so those are your camera wires. And now what you're going to do is you're going to locate, and I may get this microscope out actually to kind of help get an even clearer picture. So let me show you this microscope image of what we're going to be doing here. Give me 1 second, and I'll put that on the screen for you. And you'll see it pop up here in just a second. I will share the computer screen, and you'll see the microscope coming up. And it's loading here. There it is. Here we go. And I'll show you exactly what we're doing. All right. So under this microscope, you're going to see the board. Okay, and we're starting with the camera. So let me go ahead and focus. Let me raise this up quite a bit too. This is a little too close. All right, that's pretty good right there, okay? So if we're looking at the front of the board, you can see the arrow right here. If you find that arrow, that means that you're pointing towards the front. You'll see the boot button right here. Right in front of that, you're gonna see these pads. The pads that we're gonna be focused on right now are gonna be the following. We are gonna take the red cable and we are gonna solder it from the camera, and we're gonna solder it to this 5-volt. We're gonna take the black cable and we're gonna solder it to this ground. And we're going to take the yellow cable and we're going to solder it to this video in, or VIN, as you see it, okay? Now I'm going to try to do this under the microscope, so it'll kind of be easier for you guys to see how we're going to get it done. All right, but let me just see if I can get this lined up. There we go. All right, I'm going to put my goggles on here so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take my tweezers. All right, and I'm actually going to split screen this way so you guys can see how I'd be doing this. I'm going to take, and I'm going to make sure, now I want you to look at something here. This is very important to pay attention to, okay? If you'll notice, do you see how long that is, that wire right there? That is way too long, because as you can see when you get to about right here, when you get to the 5-volt, if you were to leave it like that and solder it, you're either going to leave a bunch hanging off or you're going to end up grounding out to this button right here. What you want to do, and I don't normally do this under the microscope over a board, but I'm going to do it so that you have a reference here. Just make sure that, I'm going to make sure I take that piece away. I want to leave the length of my wire about as big as one of those squares. So I'm going to come in here with my cutters, and I'm going to cut about that much away. See? Now when I put it on there, it's going to be a perfect fit. You're going to do that for all your wires, okay? So again, come in. That away. This way you don't have too much wire hanging off and you don't have too much wire pushed in past the board. Come in, cut it off, and there you go. All right, now let's begin the soldering, okay? And I think that should be in good focus there, so let's get this done. Get your soldering iron, make sure it's clean, and put something on the board so it doesn't wiggle all over the place. That didn't help me at all. That's not helping me either. Okay, let's just hope we can keep it in place. This is a little harder when you're doing it under a microscope, but let's just see. It should be a 1-second touch. There you go. And go ahead and bring the 5-volt in. It's going to be another 1-second touch. There you go. And then go ahead and bring the ground in. Done. Look at that. See how all those sit on there so nicely? Okay, that's what you want to achieve by doing this. So make sure that yours look like that, okay? And that will be setting up the camera. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna stop there so you guys can practice on that one, and we will come back. And the next part will be to solder in your VTX. And then from there, we will get ready to do the, let me see, let me do this here, there we go. When we come back, we're gonna do the VTX. And we'll take breaks each one of these so that you guys can make sure you're perfect on this, okay? We'll be right back, do the VTX, and then we'll do the buzzer. And if you don't want to do the buzzer, you can skip that video and the receiver. And if you're not going to do the receiver, you can skip that video. Be right back.